family. Thank you for joining us today. We'll continue the series of the presence of Jesus. Pastor Josh has a great message about is Jesus enough?
Kind of roll into this message because I've been thinking about this message. I've known that I'm just going to preach on John 10 for a while, and I started to put my message together and scribble down notes and think of all these things that I could do and bring a fun message, a lighthearted message, an Instagram worthy message, and tweetable quotes, and stories about sheep and kicking people and things like that. But I couldn't get it all formulated right. Every time I sat down to put my notes together, it just wasn't coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm letting you in on the process because this message is a deep message. I couldn't put together a coherent message. And it wasn't until late this week that I asked God, I was like, God, why is this not coming? Why am I stressing about this? Why can I not figure out this thought? And he said this to me, he said, it's because that's not what I told you to preach. And he reminded me of a vision that I had when we were in the mountains, where we were situated was actually down in this valley. And I know there's a sermon in there, but we're down in this valley. And I was out, and the sun had risen. I was waiting for it to come and light up the valley. And God spoke to me. And he said, when did Jesus stop being enough for you? When did Jesus stop being enough for you? And I wrestle with that. And I'm still wrestling with that because it hurts. It's not something that's easy to deal with. It's not something that's easy to go through. I have to take a hard look at myself and be like, look, I'm a leader in this place. I should have it all together. 6 weeks ago, I stood here and told you that I'm fully surrendered to God and I've given him everything. And God said, no, you haven't. You haven't. The Lord showed me that I haven't fully surrendered. And for the last couple weeks, that's what I've been wrestling with. And so I've titled this message for John 10, Is He Enough? Give you a spoiler. The answer can be found in Jesus' fourth I am statement, when he says, I am the good shepherd. Before we get into the meat of the message and where I want to sit for a little while, I want to kind of put into context the beginning of John 10, because if you start at John 10, chapter 1, or John 10, verse 1, it really kind of starts mid-thought. It's kind of confusing. But if you back it up into the end of John 9, you really you can see the context of the whole thing. It's really just kind of a bad break, but it flows that way. Last week, Pastor Leanne brought an incredible message on John 9. If you haven't heard it, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. Now, if you take the end of that chapter and roll that into the very beginning of John 10, it makes a little bit more sense. So keep your seats as I read this to you, because I want you to understand kind of the direction that Jesus is going with this conversation. He had the Pharisees had just kicked out the blind man. And he says this, Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and having found him said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir, that I might believe him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he that is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and worshiped him. Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, are we also blind? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you have no guilt. But now that you say we see, your guilt remains. Chapter 10. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this analogy, he used this comparison because it should have been understood by the people that he was talking to. But verse 6 tells us they didn't understand it. And maybe it was, maybe the part that they didn't understand was what he meant about thieves and robbers, because really the people that he was talking to were the people that were standing in his presence. The people that were using the sheep for their own gain. But because they didn't understand, Jesus really took it to a basic level. But they should have understood, because back then, the sheepfold, every town had a sheepfold. And you have to visualize what this looks like. So it's basically just a pen. It's just walls with an open door. Sometimes there was a gate, sometimes there wasn't, but there was a gatekeeper, there was a doorkeeper. And what he would do is when people would bring their sheep, they would put them in the pen. They would get their little valet check and they would walk off, and he would stay there with them. And when night fell, what he would do is he would lay down in front of that open door. And the reason that he would do that is because no sheep would exit without going over his body, and no predator would come in without crossing his body. He was the door. And the sheep stayed there, and they were safe and they were secure. Lots of shepherds brought the sheep. Lots of shepherds. I mean, think about this. If 5 shepherds bring 10 sheep, that's a whole mess of sheep. But when they would come up and they would get ready to claim their sheep, they would call them by name. And those sheep would come and the others would stay. And scripture tells us that they would take those sheep and they would bring them out, and then they would lead them. Not drive them, not push them. You push cattle, you drive cattle. Cattle are hard-headed. They go their own way. They do what they want to do, but sheep will listen to their voice, to the voice of their master. Sheep will listen to the voice of their shepherd, and he will lead them away. That's what Jesus was talking about here. But they just lacked understanding. They didn't get it. And so Jesus took it to a super basic level. And it's in that basic level because sometimes I'm hard-headed and I don't get it. But it's in that super basic level that Jesus has spent the last 3 weeks talking to me, revealing places in me that I haven't fully surrendered, that I haven't allowed the shepherd in. This is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time. Because the answer to why is Jesus enough is in the scripture. It's in these words. You see, a good shepherd cares for his sheep. A good shepherd loves his sheep. He nourishes them. He feeds them. He finds them when they wander off. He knows their names and he protects them. And a good shepherd makes sure they're healthy. He makes sure his sheep are healthy. I'm going to ask you a question here in just a minute. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to stand. I'm not going to ask you to shout it out. I'm not going to ask you to share it with your neighbor. This is truly just a question for you. God asked me this question, when did Jesus stop being enough for me? And it's really messed with me. And the vision that he gave me on how to present this message is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm just being obedient to him. And so I want you to dig deep when I ask you this question. I want you to access the areas of your heart and the areas of your mind that you've locked away, that you've kept hidden, that you don't want to address. I want you to do me a favor and close your eyes. Remove all distractions. Imagine you're in a house. And that house represents you. Your life, all that you've done, all that you've built. It's clean. It's warm. It's welcoming. Maybe there's a crooked picture here or there, an unfolded blanket, so it's not perfect, but it looks good on the surface. We're not going to stay on the first floor. Let's go downstairs to the basement. Feel every wooden step below your feet. When you get down there and click on the light, it's not as clean or put together as the first floor. There's baggage, there's boxes, there's things that have been put up and put away for a really long time. Forgotten memories, treasures lost. But in the back corner of the room, behind all that clutter, there's a locked door. No one goes in that room. Not your friends, not your family, not even your spouse. The things that are in there are yours to guard and to keep hidden. So much so you haven't even let Jesus in that room. Picture what's in that room. Picture why you're keeping it locked away from everyone. Let me ask you this. When did Jesus stop being enough to take on those things? Hold on to that thought. Keep your eyes closed. Focus on it. Listen to the words of Jesus concerning that very closet and all those secrets locked behind that door. Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. He who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he's a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. I must bring them also. And they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason, the Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I may take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down. I have authority to take it up again. This charge I've received from my Father. Now maybe behind that door is crippling addiction. A robber forcibly stealing, killing, and destroying your life through things you can't let go. But Jesus says he brings life and life abundant. Maybe locked behind that door is the pride you wrestle with daily. Nothing more than a thief using and manipulating you and things. Jesus says he's the door, and anyone entering must enter through him, and he will be saved and find pasture. Personal pride has no place in the fold. Maybe behind that door is the abandonment of a father who is nothing more than a hired hand, who saw the wolf coming and fled while the wolf snatched and scattered your family. Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. I will lay my life down for the sheep. can open your eyes. Jesus is enough. Jesus is enough. He's not scared of the thieves and the robbers you've allowed or brought into the fold. He's not scared of the pride you wrestle with daily. He's not afraid to see the bruises from the physical abuse you've suffered. He's not afraid to be a beacon of hope in the midst of mental or emotional abuse levied upon you. He's not ashamed or disgusted at the loss of innocence caused by sexual abuse you've endured. He's not afraid to walk beside you as you battle addiction. He doesn't get nervous when you cry out to him when all hell is crashing down around you. He's not scared of your mounting bills. He's not shaken by the mistakes that you've made. He's not upset you didn't listen. Jesus isn't worried about the things you worried about. Jesus will not abandon you like they did. He is the good shepherd. His heart grieves for your pain. He desires nothing more than for you to be whole. He longs for your release and your freedom. You are worthy of his love. Someone in this room needs to hear that. You are worthy of his love. Jesus didn't come for perfect sheep. He came for sheep that were his, that would know his voice, and that would follow him. He came that we would be counted among his flock. He came that we would know who we are and whose we are. Because he's the good shepherd and he loves his sheep. That's it. Jesus is the good shepherd and he loves you. Only the good shepherd can say, I lay my life down that I can take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. No one takes it from him. Concerning you, concerning every one of his sheep in his fold, no one takes it from him. He willingly lays it down. Every broken, hidden, sinful, imperfect piece of us is perfected in him because he's the good shepherd. He knows we've all sinned. We all fall short of the glory of God. But despite our sin, despite our sin nature, despite the things that our flesh wants, he still loves us. And he protects us. And he heals us. And he watches out for the thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That very same thief that wants to keep that little room you just identified locked up. That same thief that wants to continue to shove things under the door to keep hidden. That same thief that wants everything behind that door to be so shame-filled you can't address it. That same thief that wants to overwhelm you with loss and sorrow. Jesus said, I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. So let me ask you, are we allowing the thief to keep adding locks to the door? More chains? Slip the little notes of paper under there? Are we allowing him to continually steal from us, steal our faith, our finances, our happiness? Bless you. Are we allowing the thief to kill our hopes and dreams, our desires? Are we allowing him to steal our marriage and our relationships? Every one of us has a door. I don't care if you're a brand new believer or been walking with the Lord your whole life. Every one of us has something. It's just a matter of how long we've been holding on to it. That's what becomes the issue. Because the longer we hold on to it, the deeper in covenant we get with it. And then it becomes part of our identity. Becomes part of who we are. Becomes something we can't let go of and something we can't do, we can't deal with. And we just keep locking it up. Locking it away. You know, the beautiful thing about Jesus and the beautiful thing about him being the good shepherd is it's never too late. He wants you in the fold. Sometimes we've been in the fold. Sometimes we're in the fold as it is, and these things start to crop up. But when I said that the good shepherd makes sure his sheep are healthy, it's not one and done. He continually comes. He continually vets his sheep. He continually looks at us for scars, blemishes, things that can get infected. And he cleans it. And he dresses it. And he nurtures us. So why do we continue to hold on to the things that we just keep locked away because we're afraid we can't let go of them? You know what I would contend? I would contend that it's become such a part of our identity, such a secret part of us, that we don't know who we are without it. I can tell you who you are. You're his. Plain and simple. We just have to be willing to open the basement, take Jesus to that room, unlock the door, say, God, clean house. Clean house today. Because I can't go another day knowing that I'm not fully surrendered to you. I can't go another day knowing that I'm not whole in you. Knowing that I have an issue, that I have infection, that I have a problem, and not allowing you to address it. I can't go another day not trusting you. Casting my fears upon you. Not in the way that we should, but more projecting my fears upon you. He left me. He'll do the same. Jesus says, no, I won't. I put my faith in somebody and they messed me over. You will too. Jesus says, no, I'm the good shepherd. I trusted and it was broken. Jesus says, you haven't trusted me. It's our choice to make, truly. We can let it go, and we can let him in, and we can truly believe that he's the good shepherd. Or we can continue on like the Jews in 22, verses 22 through 42, that no matter what they see, they still don't believe. signs, miracles, wonders done by his hand and in his name, and they still need to hear him say it. What are we waiting for Jesus to say to us? What are we waiting for? Maybe we're there. Maybe we've identified those places and Jesus is actively working on it. That's great. Man, that's beautiful. But maybe there's this chance that door is just a lobby to another door. Because we've started to build and we've started to hide so many different things that it's lobby after lobby after lobby, never getting to the root, and we let Jesus in just a little bit. Go ahead and clean this area, but don't go further. I'm still not sure what's back there. Jesus doesn't care. He wants to come in. He wants to clean house. He wants you to be whole, church. That's it. He just wants you to be whole. He wants you to know him as he knows you. This has been a struggle for me. And I hope it's a struggle for you, because I really hope that somewhere deep down it strikes that chord of, man, I really haven't given this to God. I really haven't given my all to him. 99% is not complete. I hate to tell you that. 99.9% is not complete. If we want the Good Shepherd to protect us, to work in our lives, we have to allow him to do that. We have a lot of time left on this day. Another 15 minutes left of the service. I'm going to ask the worship team to come up, because I want to do something. I want to spend some time. Because I feel like there's a point that we all get to where enough is enough. I can't do it anymore, God. I'm overwhelmed, I'm overburdened, overtaxed, and I'm out of stock. I can't do it anymore. What's it take to get to that point? I'm right here with you. I'm laying myself out here because I don't want you to feel like this is just a message coming from a pastor in a pulpit telling you what you should do. I'm here feeling the same thing, struggling with the same thing. The thought of Jesus asking me that, the thought of God asking me, when did Jesus stop being enough for you, was almost unbearable for me. It hurt. Not because God was intentionally trying to hurt me, but because he was trying to reveal in me a gushing wound that I had just put a Band-Aid over. If I can stand here as a leader in this church and lay myself out and say, we all struggle. We all have hardships. I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I feel like I just can't do it. Those are the areas that God says, then let me do it. Sometimes the shame and the guilt of Whatever it is that we've locked in that closet is so overbearing that we can't stomach it. But God says, let me take it. Your burdens are not too much for him. Listen to me when I say this, church. You are not a burden to God. Your life is not a burden to God. You are not a burden to the Good Shepherd. Stop carrying a weight you were never meant to carry. You are not a burden.
Hey, I hope that message challenges you this week. Is Jesus enough in your life?